breaking ball and a call. Strike three. Third strikeout for Zach.
He's going to just watch it go. A grand slam for Bryson Stott.
And there's a high fly ball. Deep right field. Harper watches it fly.
From WHYY, it is Hittin season. Hey there, podcast pals. I'm John Stolnis from The Good Phight. You can follow me on X and Blue Sky at John Stolnis. Coming up, finally, the Phillies have an all-star game MVP breaking a 6-decade drought. Kyle Schwarber with the long balls in the swing-off. We're going to talk about that exciting night of baseball, the Midsummer Classic, one of the best I've ever seen. I'll get into my second half Phillies predictions. I've got 10 predictions for the Phillies' second half. We'll talk about the Phillies draft just a little bit. That's all coming up here on this edition of Hittin' Season. All right, let's jump right into things here. And what an all-star game we saw. I mean, sometimes these all-star games aren't the most exciting in the world. They're low-scoring games, a lot of great pitching in these all-star games, and sometimes they can be just a little bit dry. I still think baseball has clearly the best all-star game of any professional sport. It's light years better and way more competitive than football. And I mean, football, they don't even play the game anymore. They do flag football now. Basketball, nobody cares. Hockey, a little bit more so, but it's still just nobody wants to touch each other. So it's a cheap facsimile of what we see during the regular season. But in baseball, there's really no faking it. There's no way to get a pitcher who normally throws 97, 98 miles an hour to suddenly just start throwing 88 and start 85. That's not how baseball works. And we saw that at the Midsummer Classic with pitchers ramping things up there, 100 plus miles an hour, and a terrific baseball game as the American League overcame a 6-0 deficit in the seventh inning with 4 runs in the seventh and then 2 in the ninth to tie it off of Edwin Diaz of the Mets, which triggered one of the weirdest things we've ever seen in baseball history, and something that I think we're all going to hope happens at the end of every All-Star game moving forward, the home run derby swing-off. Kyle Schwarber hitting 3 home runs in his 3 swings, overcoming a 3-1 deficit in the home run derby to decide who wins the All-Star game, and of course wins All-Star Game MVP for his efforts. The first time since 1964, 61 years ago, kids, that a Philly won the All-Star Game MVP. Of course, Johnny Callison did it when he hit a walk-off home run in the Midsummer Classic in 1964. And Kyle Schwarber, it'll be an interesting trivia question many years from now when maybe the casual fan didn't realize there was an All-Star home run derby swing-off at the end. They'll see in the box score that Kyle Schwarber won the MVP with it going 0 for 2 with a walk at the plate in the game. In fact, he had a chance in the bottom of the ninth inning to win it outright, leading off the ninth against Aroldis Chapman, but got jammed and lined out to the third baseman, but was one of the 3 players selected by National League manager Dave Roberts to take part in the home run derby. This thing goes back to the CBA that was agreed to 4 years ago. This was written, and because we've seen a couple of different things in these All-Star games over the years that left a bad taste in our mouths, right? You don't want to have the zombie runner starting on second in the All-Star game, and really they don't want to have anyone playing extra innings in the All-Star game at this point. You've already got rules in place that say a pitcher can't pitch in the All-Star game if they pitched on the Sunday beforehand, and you've got all kinds of other usage rules that are in place in the All-Star game because we are so much more overprotective of pitchers nowadays. So they're not going to play extra innings in an All-Star game. And you're not going to end an All-Star game in a tie, even though Major League Baseball All-Star games don't count for home field advantage in the World Series anymore. That was an ill-fated idea after that that unpalatable tie that was played. I forget what year that was now. Was that 2000, 2002, something like that? I forget exactly what year it was now. But clearly no one wanted to see that again. So the solution was this home run derby swing-off, and it was a tremendous bit of theater. What was really cool was seeing the players out of the dugout, standing on the side, watching these guys try and do this. And for Kyle Schwarber to come out as the second hitter for Dave Roberts and the National League team. The American League, the 2 hitters for the American League team, they hit first. They had 3 home runs to the National League's 1 home run. Schwarber comes up, a little bit of pressure on him. 3 straight dingers. Way out of there. I mean, they were moonshots. None of them were wall scrapers. And it's just Schwarber, Schwarber. It was, and Joe Davis on the call, by the way. Joe Davis is the best play-by-play announcer in baseball. And I think he loves calling games for the Phillies. I think he loves calling home runs hit by Phillies because it just seems they're legendary. Every time a Philly hits a home run and Joe Davis is on the call, it's goosebumps. He really is the best. And he did a great job on Kyle Schwarber's 3 straight home runs. And so Schwarber, as a result, wins All-Star Game MVP. Since 1965, the Phillies have had 146 representatives sent to the All-Star Game, including Zach Wheeler, who did not play, and Kyle Schwarber this year. And Kyle Schwarber did what none of those other players had done, right? Not Mike Schmidt. Mike Schmidt went to 12 All-Star games. Not Chase Utley. Not Steve Carlton or Robin Roberts, Jimmy Rollins, Greg Luzinski, Harper, Cole Hamels, Dykstra, Dalton. None of them won an All-Star Game MVP over 6 decades of Phillies players playing in the Midsummer Classic. Kyle Schwarber does it, and he didn't do it during the regular portion of the game either. It was a very Phillies-like regular portion of the game, and 0 for 2 with a walk. I mean, that's kind of what we come to expect from the Phillies when they play in the All-Star Game, and that's fine. You know, it's an exhibition game. Nobody really cares, but here you had, in these extenuating circumstances, Kyle Schwarber doing what he did. Just tremendous theater. And like I said, it was really cool to see the players react, and for him to win the All-Star Game MVP. There's been a little bit of controversy about that on Wednesday, seeing online people thinking Pete Alonso should have won the All-Star Game MVP for the 3-run home run that he hit in the game portion. But, they were tied. I mean, Alonso's 3-run home run didn't win the game. It wasn't the deciding factor in the game. Kyle Schwarber's 3 home runs, granted, it came in kind of a gimmicky fashion. It came in the weirdest way possible. But there's no doubt Kyle Schwarber deserved the All-Star Game MVP over Pete Alonso. I mean, let's first of all, who really cares? But it's not. I mean, they don't win the All-Star Game without Kyle Schwarber doing exactly what he did, going 3 for 3 in tank shots, giving the National League a 4-3 lead, and then you had American League slugger Jonathan Aranda was selected as the anchor man for the American League squad. And you had all these great sluggers for the American League, and it's Jonathan Aranda that you're going to ask to be in the to try and hit some bombs in this swing off. He didn't, of course. He just missed one on his last swing, but he didn't hit any home runs. And then Pete Alonso was the third one up for the National League, but his services were not needed after Aranda's and his 12 home runs this year could not overcome Kyle Schwarber's heroics. And then you have Kyle Schwarber winning the team's first All-Star Game MVP since Johnny Callison in 1964. Now, this is not how we should decide all tie games after 9 innings. I think players were kind of joking about that after the game. We should never play extra innings ever again. Obviously, this is not something you want to see in like a random Brewers-Rockies game, right? I mean, who are you picking? Which 3 Rockies players are you picking to do the home run swing off? That's a gimmicky way to end a baseball game. In an exhibition game like the All-Star Game, it's absolutely appropriate. It's 100% appropriate. That's the only place it should be. Maybe the World Baseball Classic, if you want to do it there too. But I mean, this is the spot for this, because the night before you already have the Home Run Derby. We're already kind of in that mode. And I do think it is interesting that Schwarber declined to take part in the Home Run Derby, the official Home Run Derby on Monday night. And then it just seems as though fate would not be dissuaded from Kyle Schwarber taking part in some kind of Home Run Derby this year at All-Star Weekend in Atlanta, and he did what he did and earned himself All-Star Game MVP. A very, very cool moment for Phillies fans watching. If I was a kid, this was one of my first All-Star games I was ever watching, and I'm a Phillies fan. If you're a young Phillies fan who listens to this podcast, I hope you were so excited watching Kyle Schwarber do what he did. If it was me, if it was 11-year-old me, watching Kyle Schwarber do that, I'm never going to forget it as an adult, but as a kid, it would be one of those indelible moments that I would talk about forever. Just a phenomenal moment, and it was just the crowd reaction, the player reaction. John Smoltz described it as one of the most clutch things he's ever seen. Yes, it took unique circumstances for Schwarber to break the 6-decade-long streak of empty Phillies All-Star Game moments, but at long last, The All-Star Game MVP trophy is back in Philadelphia. So just a tremendous night from Kyle Schwarber. Very cool stuff from him. And he is this team's most important player. He really has become the guy. We all know the importance he has in the clubhouse, what he means to the team. That's why I have no worries whatsoever that he's going to hit free agency. Well, I mean, he's going to hit free agency, that he's going to sign with another team in free agency. I have no worries about that. Kyle Schwarber loves it in Philadelphia. I think he knows that this is his home. I don't know why they couldn't get together on a contract in the spring. My guess is the Phillies wanted to offer him something less than what they gave him 4 years ago, but the guy is getting better every year. I don't think you're going to be able to swing that this time, Phillies, and you know that you need him. He's one of the few guys in this league who is a consistent 40-plus home run threat every single year. Like, these guys are unicorns in this day and age when pitching dominates. There are no guys like Kyle Schwarber out there, and he's eliminated all of the negatives that we've always had about him. A low batting average. He can't hit left-handers. He's doing all of that now. For the last 2 years, this isn't a fluke. He's learned how to become a complete hitter at the plate. One of the most dangerous hitters in the game. Does he have some streaks here and there? Yes, but not nearly what we're used to seeing from him. He's been remarkably consistent here in 2025. So the Phillies know how much they need him. Kyle Schwarber wants to be on the Phillies. This is a deal that will get done. I don't have any inside information on this, guys. For those of you who think I'm a reporter and then I have access, I have none. I have no access whatsoever. I'm just a fan who's been following this team since 1985. But I know what I'm seeing, and I know that the Phillies know that they can't live without Kyle Schwarber, and Kyle Schwarber wants to be in Philadelphia. I have no worries that he's going to leave for another team in free agency this offseason. Do I wish they'd signed a contract extension in the spring? Absolutely, I do, but I don't think it's anything to be too terribly worried about. Other great things from the All-Star game. I really did enjoy Clayton Kershaw being mic'd up. I thought that was kind of fun, his interactions with John Smoltz. I'm not a big John Smoltz guy by any stretch of the imagination, but I thought the banter between those two was really good. This is not something we should see in the World Series or in the playoffs, but again, in the All-Star game, miking up a pitcher as he's pitching is a terrific idea. Terrific idea. 100%. They should be doing this with lots of guys on the field, but particularly a pitcher as he's pitching. We've never heard that before. And for Kershaw to do it, named to the team in an honorary capacity, was just tremendous. I will say Jacob Misiorowski, the Brewers' young phenom who has 5 starts in his major league career, who was controversially named to the All-Star team. I thought he was pretty fun to watch. I gotta say, and I still do think it is ridiculous that he was named to the All-Star team. But watching that kid throw pitch after pitch over 100 miles an hour, that was pretty special. There was some fun there. The Hank Aaron tribute was really, really great. The ABS system that was used, I think we're seeing that this is absolutely going to be a part of baseball next year, and you can see why. It's not going to be overused, but here and there, in a big moment, when a hitter decides that he thinks the umpire missed a pitch, he's going to call it. We saw it in the spring. It wasn't disruptive. I think this is I think it's a great middle ground for people who want all the human element taken out of the game, no human beings behind the plate calling balls and strikes, for it strictly to be a computer. I think this is kind of a nice half measure, and let's play with this for a couple of years and see what it looks like. I do think that this is something I was going to talk about on the roundtable edition of the podcast over the weekend with Justin and Liz, and we just didn't have enough time to do that. But I, of course, like you, was outraged that Christopher Sanchez and Ranger Suarez did not make the team. Christopher Sanchez is a top 3 Cy Young candidate right now. He absolutely should have been an all-star. But I'm starting to come around to the other side on this. They weren't named to the team initially. And once guys started dropping out, I think we assumed, okay, Sanchez or Suarez will be named to the team. And every day that passed and every guy that dropped out that wasn't replaced with Sanchez or Suarez, you started wondering, what the heck is going on? Well, Ranger Suarez told Dave Roberts that he didn't want to pitch, that he wanted to rest, which is totally understandable given the fact he missed the first month of the season, that he's had his workload decreased a little bit here in his last couple of starts, because the Phillies, I think, are a little concerned that he's sore and that they don't want to see the same thing happen to him in the second half here in 2025 that happened to him last year. Ranger Suarez skipping the All-Star game made 100% complete and total sense. So that's why he was never named as a reserve. Same thing with Christopher Sanchez. Sanchez started on Sunday. He went deep into the game on Sunday against the Padres. It would have been reckless for him to pitch on Sunday. Now, I know his agent said that Christopher Sanchez never said that he wouldn't pitch or that he didn't want to pitch. My guess is Sanchez probably did want to pitch. But the fact that he pitched on Sunday and that he would be pitching on 3 days rest, you're not going to do that. You're not going to risk a pitcher's injury in order for him to get one inning in an all-star game. So there's no reason, there's no sense. Should he have been an all-star? Yes. When you look back on the back of his baseball card or on his baseball reference page and you look and you say, why isn't Christopher Sanchez an all-star? He probably should have been named an all-star right from the start. But when they started naming replacement players, they're trying to find players who can actually play in the game. They're not going to name Christopher Sanchez or Ranger Suarez as a replacement player, knowing they can't play in the game, because then they're going to need to find a replacement for the replacement player. It doesn't make any sense. It would have made no sense to say, okay, Christopher Sanchez, congratulations, you're replacing Chris Sale on the All-Star team. I can't pitch. I pitched on Sunday. Okay, let's find a replacement for Christopher Sanchez. Ranger, all right, you're going to be the replacement for the replacement. I'm not going to pitch. I'm going to rest up. Okay, we need to find a replacement for the replacement for the replacement. You see where I'm going here? I mean, it didn't make any sense. So I understand why Major League Baseball didn't approach or didn't confirm Christopher Sanchez or Ranger Suarez and officially make them all-stars, because they weren't going to pitch in the game. It would have been counterproductive. So I think it's great that the Phillies paid Christopher Sanchez the money that he was owed for making that he would have been given had he made the All-Star team. Class move by the Phillies organization for doing that. And the Phillies really do take care of their players. They are tremendous with that kind of stuff. And it's a drop in the bucket for John Middleton and the front office. So I get the controversy initially. I was with you. By, any metric that you look at, Christopher Sanchez and Ranger Suarez absolutely are all-stars. But do I think Jacob Misiorowski should have made the all-star team after 5 big league starts? No. I think there were probably other options out there other than Jacob Misiorowski. But at this point, you're already moving down the pecking order quite a bit here. Why not throw the kid on there who throws over 100 miles an hour? I'm not nearly as upset about that as I was earlier in the week. I get it. All right. It's an exhibition game. So I get it. And I don't think there was anyone else in the National League who you were robbing by not naming them to the All-Star team. I just don't think there was anybody else out there that you would say, like, oh man, that guy got Rogered. It just doesn't. So fine. Jacob Misiorowski, no problem. And hey, listen, is this a blessing in disguise for the Phillies that everyone stayed home? That everybody was able to rest up? Zach Wheeler, it was very disappointing Zach Wheeler didn't start in the All-Star game. I think he was going to start in the All-Star game. And it was disappointing that he decided to sit it out. I really wanted to see Zach Wheeler go up against Tariq Skubal. I thought that would have been just tremendous theater. And obviously you have a Phillies player featured prominently in the Midsummer Classic. And he decided that he wanted to rest up for the second half. Look, you can see how badly this team wants to finally get over the hump and win the World Series. The fact that Ranger Suarez would turn down an all-star nod and that Zach Wheeler would turn down playing in the game, getting the start in the game. The fact that he would turn down something that high profile tells me all I need to know about Zach Wheeler and where his head is at. He wants to win the World Series. I think he also wants to win the Cy Young Award. I think he thinks that is, and he's right, it is a bigger honor winning a Cy Young than starting in the All-Star game. So Paul Skeens starts the All-Star game for the second year in a row, and certainly a deserving pitcher. You could have made the argument for him over Zach Wheeler anyway to start the All-Star game, although I think it was going to be Wheeler. So yes, but I was disappointed. Yeah, I was disappointed in that we weren't going to get to see Zach Wheeler start the All-Star game. That would have been a lot of fun, but clearly this team's mission is to win the World Series, and if resting up during the All-Star break is what Zach Wheeler needs to do to put himself in the best position possible, I'm 100% on board. But I do think, there was some anger in the Phillies clubhouse that Jacob Misiorowski was named to the All-Star team and Christopher Sanchez wasn't. So I wonder, will this be motivation? Do the guys look at this as disrespect? I just laid out to you why I don't think it was a disrespect thing, why I think it was just a logistics thing. But if, we know that sports teams use anything that they can find for motivation. Maybe this is something they use. Hey, we have one guy playing in the All-Star game, 2 guys selected from a first-place team. Trey Turner got robbed as well. We don't get no respect around here. And then they go on, and they try to use that as motivation. I mean, that's crazier things have been used as motivation than that. And I do think this could be a blessing in disguise. I mean, last year the Phillies had 6 guys play in the game. 8 guys were named to the roster. And in the second half, they didn't have any juice. The juice wasn't there. So this year, basically the whole team rests up, goes to play some golf, goes back home with their family, or does whatever it is they're going to do during these few days off that they have during this 162-game grind. This meat grinder of a schedule, this 6 months of day in, day out, hot weather, playing baseball 3 hours a night, all the preparation that goes into it. When you get a break, when you get a breather, man, they're going to take it. And I don't think it's going to affect Kyle Schwarber as much because he's the DH. He doesn't have to play a position. So it's not a big deal for Kyle Schwarber. And he had the family there. Did you see him on the red carpet with his wife and his 2 unbelievably adorable kids? His 2 little sons who look just like him. Oh my gosh. What a tremendous family. Just a cool weekend for them. I hope they all had fun because it was a lot of fun watching them. But I think this was a good thing for the Phillies, that it was a low-key all-star game for the Phils. Last year was their year. And in 2026, when the game's in Philadelphia, hopefully it'll be a Phillies extravaganza. Here in 2025, I was fine with just one Philly. It did seem weird that there were 2 Nationals playing in the game and 1 Philly playing in the game. But in this case, I think it'll work out for the best. And that one Philly ended up making a name for himself and providing the big splash, saving the very best for the end here in the All-Star game. All right, let's talk about the draft. And what a weird draft this was for the Phillies. I mean, not so much at the top with their first-round selection, number 26 overall, Gage Wood out of Arkansas. He looks every bit the part. Threw a no-hitter in the College World Series, obviously, with 19 strikeouts in that game. He has a great fastball. He has a great curveball. Very Mick Abel-like right now with Gage Wood. He's got a slider and a changeup that aren't quite as good. The Phillies view him as a long-term starter, as someone who could potentially be on a fast track to the majors at 21 years old. He's got a great personality. He's got a lot of fire on the mound. One of the things that popped into my mind, though, was he started off his collegiate career in the bullpen, was a closer for Arkansas. And this year they tried to make him a starter, and after a couple of starts, he had an impingement in his arm, and he was out for a couple of months. He did come back and return to the rotation and was a stalwart member of the rotation when he did come back. So I think the Phillies have said they do view him as a starter, but here... Well, we're going to get to... I'm going to answer a couple of Twitter mailbag questions here in a couple of minutes, and one of them has to do with young Gage Wood, because I wrote an article, too, for The Good Fight this week about Gage Wood and what the Phillies may plan to do with him. And with the selection of Wood, it was the first time in the 5 years that Brian Barber has been head of scouting, of amateur scouting, that they took a college pitcher. Actually, it's the first time he's taken a college pitcher in the first round, and he wasn't done there. A left-hander, Cade Obermueller from Iowa, was taken in round 2, a mid-90s fastball, a good slider, a 3.02 ERA in 15 starts. He's also 21. You had Cody Balker in round 3. Another college pitcher out of Vanderbilt, and this is when I feel like they started to troll us. In day 2, round 4, they took another college pitcher, Sean Youngerman. In round 5, another college pitcher, right-hander Gabe Craig out of Baylor. And then in round 6, you guessed it, another college pitcher, James Talon out of Duke at number 191 overall. Then they started taking high school. They decided to change things up by taking a high school pitcher in round 7 with Matthew Fisher out of Memorial High School in Indiana. Then back to college pitchers in round 8, Brian Walters out of Miami. In round 9, it was their first position player, Matthew Ferreira out of Toms River. He's going to be a little bit till he gets to the big leagues. And then in round 10, another college pitcher, Cole Gilly out of Indiana. Round 11, they took a college catcher, Will Vierling, who is Matt Vierling's cousin. now Tiger Matt Vierling, junior at Murray State this year, 10 homers, 16 doubles, 51 RBIs. He was their 11th round choice. So, I mean, you just... Early in this draft, the Phillies focused on not just pitching, but college pitching, which makes me wonder how many of these guys they see as long-term pitchers, how many they see as bullpen guys. It just felt like they're trying to get as many guys who could conceivably pitch in the major leagues within the next year, 2 years, 3 years as they possibly could. Not a lot of Andrew Painter, Mick Abel waiting on those guys selected. They picked some pitchers who I think they feel they don't need a whole lot more refinement before they reach the big leagues, which will be interesting to see, especially with Gage Wood, how quickly he arrives in Philadelphia. All right, well, the Phillies' first half is officially behind us now with the All-Star break all done, and the second half now underway. And, of course, it's not an official half. The Phillies passed the halfway point a couple of weeks ago. Just 66 games left here in the regular season, and the Phillies, again, in a good spot, half a game up on the Mets for first place in the National League East. They are third in the National League in terms of overall standings. So right now they'd have to play in a wild card series, but they're right behind the Cubs and the Dodgers. It's still a horse race. Nothing decided in the National League. Weird Phillies schedule coming out of the All-Star break. The Phillies' first 7 series coming out of the All-Star break, all against American League opponents. The Phillies will play nothing but interleague games into the second week of August. They have 3 versus the Angels at Citizens Bank Park when they come home, and then 3 against the Red Sox at home. Then the Phillies travel to New York to take on the Yankees, and then go to Chicago for a 3-game series with the White Sox. Then they come back home for 3 against the best team in baseball, the Tigers, at Citizens Bank Park. 3 versus the Orioles at home, and then they go to Texas to take on the Rangers for 3 games in the Lone Star State. So Angels, Red Sox, Yankees, White Sox, Tigers, Orioles, Rangers. Those are your next 7 Phillies opponents. 7 interleague series in a row for the Phillies coming out of the All-Star break. That worries me a little bit. That's kind of a strange schedule. These are not, I mean, some of these series are going to be really big and be certainly a lot of fun to watch them play, the Red Sox, White Sox, and Tigers. Less excited for White Sox, Orioles, and Rangers, but certainly, and the Angels are, be nice to, that feels like a soft landing coming out of the All-Star break. 3 games against the under 500 Angels at Citizens Bank Park, but it is strange. I never know what to expect when the Phillies play interleague, playing American League teams, and to get 7 interleague series in a row. That is really bizarre. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. For the Good Fight, and an article I got coming out on Thursday, I wrote 10 predictions that I feel are going to happen for the Phillies here in the second half. These are not bold predictions. These are not funny predictions. These are things I think actually will happen. 10 things I think will happen, 10 predictions for the Phillies here in the second half. So starting off with number 1, I'm going to start with the trade deadline. And that is, I believe, we're going to be looking at a very similar deadline to last year. I think it's Dave Dombrowski's MO. I know I've read all the different things. I read the Matt Gelb article that indicated Dombrowski is more willing now than in previous summers to make certain high-end prospects available in trades. I'll believe it when I see it. That's kind of the approach I'm taking on that. I do think they'll give up a somewhat decent prospect for a high-leverage reliever. I think like an Eduardo Tait would go. You might even see like a Justin Crawford go in a trade for like a truly high-end relief pitcher. I can get into some specifics when I take some Twitter questions here in just a second, but I think the Phillies go middle of the road at the trade deadline. I think they will get one big-time reliever, and then I do think they'll get another bat. I don't think it's going to be anything that blows anyone's hair back. It's going to be a right-handed bat that they can stick in left field and platoon and take up a lot of at-bats against left-handed pitchers. That's kind of where I think the Phillies are going at the trade deadline. I would love to see them make a big splash. I would love to see them get an impact bat and more than one impact reliever. But I feel like we're gonna have the Dombo special here. Kind of like a Carlos Estevez, Austin Hayes trade deadline. I call that the Dombo special. That's what we've had in Philadelphia. And maybe on this team it's enough, depending on who it is and depending on whether or not that bat gets a liver infection, or a kidney infection. Sorry. But I just don't see the big splash coming. So my prediction is they do stuff. They do some stuff. They get a high-end reliever. They get a bat of some kind. And then I think they just rely on their stars, some of the young stars like Bryson Stott. Now, I don't even know if I've got stuff to say about Bryson Stott in just a second. But I think that's where the Phillies go at the trade deadline. Middle of the road trade deadline for the Phillies. They'll get some help. It won't be enough to make everybody happy. Number 2, the Phillies finally designate Max Kepler for assignment. I don't like being right about this, but you all know this too. Most of you listening, you were not convinced when the Phillies tried to sell you on Max Kepler as an everyday left fielder. No one bought it. No one was buying that nonsense. Max Kepler did. He says he was told that, and that's why he was complaining about playing time while he's hitting .210 with a .307 on-base percentage and a .371 slugging percentage and a weighted runs created plus of 90. All those numbers worse than last year, a season in which he was awful. Somehow through his defense, he's been worth 0.3 FWAR. Somehow his defense has made him an above average or a slightly above replacement level player, but Baseball Reference has him as essentially a replacement level player, negative 0.1. His only saving grace is that he's run into a few homers. He's one of only 5 Phillies in double figures. That's Schwarber, Nick Castellanos, Turner, and Harper. But Rob Thompson benched him against Nick Pivetta on Sunday. It's the first time all year Kepler didn't start against a right-handed starter. If that doesn't tell you that Kepler's time on this team is short, I don't know what does. So I don't think they can DFA him just right now unless they want to call up Justin Crawford right now, which, by the way, sign me up for. I'm not convinced Justin Crawford is any kind of answer. I don't love how many ground balls he hits in the minors, but he hits balls hard, and his numbers in the minors have always been good. Maybe he's just one of those types of guys. Whether it's Justin Crawford or whether it's somebody they get at the trade deadline, I do not believe Max Kepler is a Philly once the calendar flips to August. He will be designated for assignment. That is one of my predictions. Prediction number 3. The Phillies outfield will finish this season with a negative wins above replacement. By using Baseball Reference's WAR, the Phillies outfielders have a combined negative 3.9 wins above replacement. As a whole, the Phillies would have done better having 3 AAA guys in there than the 3 guys, than the collection of players that they've had. Negative 3.9 wins above replacement. That's tied with the White Sox for third lowest in baseball. The only other teams with a worse outfield, the Rockies at negative 5.6. Brenton Doyle's having a horrific year for them, by the way. And the Kansas City Royals. The Royals have the worst outfield in baseball this year at negative 6.4. Guess who the best Philly is? Guess who the Philly is with the highest wins above replacement according to Baseball Reference in the outfield? It's Johan Rojas at 0.3. Can you believe that? If you don't believe that WAR is a real good stat, that's a good reason to... That right there is your chief argument for WAR being a flawed stat. Otto Kemp is the only other Philly 0.2 in plus territory, according to Baseball Reference's wins above replacement. Now, Fangraphs does it a little bit differently. They're a little bit more bullish on the Phil's outfield. I think they have them at slightly above 0 in terms of wins above replacement. But even with the addition of Crawford and or another bat at the deadline, I don't know how they can make up the ground they've already lost in terms of wins above replacement. So it's really been a bad outfield for the Phillies this year. Again, prediction number 4, Kyle Schwarber clears the 50 home run mark. His June was a bit down, but every other month so far, he's had an OPS of 900 or better. And even in June, it was 756, and he hit 6 home runs, so it wasn't terrible. He's got 30 home runs at the All-Star break. Right now, he's on pace to hit 50 on the nose. I say he joins Ryan Howard as the only players in franchise history to hit 50 or more bombs in a season. Prediction number 5, Bryce Harper has a 900-plus OPS in the second half. He had that breakout game against the Giants where he hit 4 extra base hits for the first time in his career. They really need him to be a 900-plus OPS guy. Right now, his 825 OPS is pretty good. It's a good number, but it needs to be more than just good. His 825 OPS is 83 points below his career 907 average. He has a career 907 OPS. Harper is capable of doing that. It's been a while. His last month with a 900 OPS was September of last year, and the last time he had an entire half of baseball in which he had a 900 OPS was the first half of 2024. Perhaps this is a hope as much as a prediction, but I do believe Harper will put up a 900-plus OPS in the second half. They really need him to do that if this offense is going to turn things around. Prediction number 6, Trey Turner leads the league in hits. Do I think he'll hit 300? I do not. Do I think he'll get 200 hits? I do not. He's on pace for 189. No Philly since Jimmy Rollins in 2007 has had a 200-hit season. But I am predicting that Trey Turner will continue to hit, will continue to pile up his singles and his doubles, and will lead the National League in hits by the end of this year. Prediction number 7, this may be the most controversial one. I do not think Andrew Painter will join the big league rotation this year. Like the Phillies, I am still high on Andrew Painter. He has all the stuff to become a big league rotation ace. And his numbers in AAA are reflective of a pitcher who hadn't appeared in a professional game in 15 months and is recovering from Tommy John surgery. The struggles of Andrew Painter in AAA are understandable. But we still have in our minds the things we were told by Dave Dombrowski and Rob Thompson and the rest of the front office at the beginning of the season when they talked about Andrew Painter being on the big league roster this year, with the timeline being right about now. All-Star game-ish, second half-ish, July-ish is what they were telling us. But I don't think they foresaw Painter's adjustment to AAA going as poorly as it has. He has a 5.01 ERA in 12 starts. 50 strikeouts and 12 walks are good, but 50 strikeouts in 55 and two-thirds innings, the strikeout numbers are way down. He's facing better hitters. He's facing some former major leaguers now. His fastball's getting hit. He's given up 11 home runs in 12 starts. He doesn't look ready yet. And he's only just turned 22, so it's okay that he's maybe dealing with a little bit of a rude awakening in AAA. Given the strength of the starting rotation, and we don't know exactly when Aaron Nola is going to be back, but I do believe it will be soon. And you do have Mick Abel, who went back to the minors to refine his stuff, and I'm going to talk about Mick Abel next. I don't think you need to put Andrew Painter in the big league rotation. Now, maybe if Aaron Nola suffers a setback, then you have to start thinking to yourself, is it worth it? Should we rush Andrew Painter? Should we move him up even if he has a 5 ERA? That was the plan initially anyway. But as long as you don't need him, let him finish the season in AAA. Let him put a whole season in the minor leagues under his belt. Learning how to pitch to AAA hitters. Learning how to pitch deeper into games. Learning how to get over 100 pitches in a game. Learning how to face a lineup the third time through. And then go into the offseason with the idea that Painter will start 2026 in the big league rotation. But I don't think he's pitching well enough to earn a promotion. And there's no need to rush it. There's no need to rush it. So that's my prediction. Andrew Painter will not join the big league rotation here in 2025, and they're certainly not going to put him in the bullpen. They've said that backwards, forwards, any other way, they can tell you it's not happening and it's the right decision. Prediction number 8, Mick Abel is traded at the trade deadline. I thought his brief run with the Phillies was instructive. He clearly has a great fastball-curveball combination, but his lack of command was an issue. And his reluctance to feature a third pitch limited his ability to get through big league hitters, especially the second time through the order. But I think he showed teams enough in the big leagues, and certainly with his pitching in AAA, he was named International Pitcher of the Week last week, that he'd be worth acquiring at the deadline. I think if the Phillies swing a move for anybody, Mick Abel is probably a secondary piece. I think he's a lock to be moved in a trade for a reliever as a secondary piece here at the trade deadline. Prediction number 9. Bryson Stott eventually is benched for Edmundo Sosa. I've been pretty hard on Bryson Stott on the podcast last week and on social media, but the only reason why I'm trying to point some of this stuff out is so that we stop trying to talk ourselves into Bryson Stott as a star player. To stop thinking about him that way and to start analyzing him and this roster realistically. Because this is not a small sample size with Bryson Stott. If you draw things out from the time he came to the big leagues in 2022, great season in 23, lackluster in 24, somehow worse in 2025, you have to admit to yourself that he is a below league average offensive player. And I don't see anything about what he's doing at the plate that makes me think there's a turnaround coming. Since 2022, there have been 148 players to accumulate at least 1,500 plate appearances. During that time, Stott's weighted runs created of 89 is 136th out of 148 players. He has been 11% worse than the league average offensive player over the last 4 years. Okay? Only 12 players have been worse offensively over the last 4 years since Bryson Stott. And among 20 second basemen who qualified with 1,500 plate appearances over the last 4 years, he's 19th among 20 second basemen over that stretch. He can't hit fastballs. I read those numbers on the last episode of the podcast, how awful he is at hitting fastballs. He can get himself into great hitters' counts, and then he gets the fastball and grounds it out, pops it up, hits a lazy fly ball somewhere. When he hits a home run, it feels like a genuine shock. So I would not be at all surprised if Stott is involved in a trade this month, first of all. And the Phillies would be well within their rights to send him down to the minors to work on his hitting. He has 3 options left. Why wouldn't they? Send him down to the minors. Brandon Marsh got sent down to the minors. Send Bryson Stott down to the minors. Maybe seeing some fastballs in AAA can help him out. Because right now, it's Stott who is the glove-only utility player. Not Edmundo Sosa, and I don't believe in Edmundo Sosa as an everyday player either. But right now, Edmundo Sosa gives the Phillies a better chance offensively than Bryson Stott does, whether it's against left-handers or right-handers. And I would start Sosa pretty much every day, unless there's a really tough right-hander, and I'd want to get Sosa in some. But that's why I think send Stott down to the minors, and you can play Edmundo Sosa and Otto Kemp. You can have him rotate between second base and left field. I would make a call with Bryson Stott and just say, listen, this isn't working out. We are wasting at bats here. We're wasting at bats. Get Edmundo Sosa into the lineup for Bryson Stott. Even if I don't believe in Edmundo Sosa 100% as an impact player, and I don't, I know Bryson Stott isn't going to fix this. There's no fix coming. I think this is who he is, guys. I mean, any other player, we would look at 4 years of a sample size and say, yeah, that's a pretty big sample. That's pretty big. All right, my 10th prediction for the second half. I predict the Phillies will win the National League East. I predict they will finish 3rd in the National League, and I predict they will play in the wild card round. I think the Dodgers and Cubs will take the first 2 seeds. I think the Phillies will outlast the Mets and win the East. But I do look at Chicago and Los Angeles, and I do think they have slightly stronger clubs. I'll tell you another team I'm worried about is Milwaukee. With Mizorowski in there, and now you've got Brandon Woodruff back. That's a decent team, man. Milwaukee's pitching staff scares me, and they could track the Cubs down. They really could. I think the Phillies will be left to face the last wild card team in the opening round of the postseason, just like they did when they hammered the Marlins in 2 quick games in Philadelphia in 2023. Maybe history will repeat itself, but I believe the Phillies will win the division, but I don't think they earn the first round bye this year. I think they'll have to play in the wild card round and finish 3rd in the National League. All right, I did say on X that I would take a couple of Twitter questions to wrap up this edition of the podcast. So let's run through these pretty quickly here. At Tom Tartaglia tweeted at me, is it possible that the Phils go after Mason Miller and Brent Rooker in a package deal? I think that's the perfect combo. Hey, it absolutely would be, Tom, if Brent could play the outfield. I also don't think the Athletics, they just signed him to a contract extension. He's one of the few guys that they've said, yes, we'll pay him money. I don't think they're going to trade him. They actually volunteered to pay Brent Rooker, and he doesn't play the outfield. Brent Rooker does not play left field. He is strictly a DH. So unless your plan is to move Kyle Schwarber back out to left field, Brent Rooker isn't the option, because otherwise I agree with you. Mason Miller and Brent Rooker would be an absolutely phenomenal combination. And it would probably require you give up Aiden Miller, Justin Crawford, Mick Abel, and Eduardo Tait to get those 2 here. That is a big price tag. Is that a price tag you're willing to pay? I think for those 2 guys, if they were available and if Rooker could play the outfield, I'd say yes. But I think it looks like offensively, Brent Rooker is a perfect fit. In the bullpen, Mason Miller is a perfect fit. But it's not a perfect fit in terms of what they can actually do for the Phillies right now. So I don't think it's actually going to there's no conversation that's going to be had there about Brent Rooker. The A's are not moving him. At Brian_Daffy asks, would Dave Dombrowski really consider trading Painter for a controllable closer? I can think of a few closer plus outfield packages that would be ideal, but not just for a closer. No, Andrew Painter is not getting traded for anyone. I don't think. Maybe if there was like a Juan Soto out there with like another year left on his deal, they might for a second consider trading Painter. But everything I'm reading is that Painter is still the one untouchable in this organization. So even though he has a 5 ERA in 11 starts in AAA, they still believe in him. And they are not going to trade him away. And I can't imagine it would be under any scenario. I could be wrong. But everything we're reading and hearing about how they feel about Andrew Painter is that he is not going anywhere. Everyone else, I think, is on the table. Aiden Miller, Justin Crawford, Phight, all those guys, they're on the table. I think you'd have to get a controllable player back. It wouldn't be for a rental. I think the top guy you could get for a rental is Phight. I think if Phight or Arun Escobar, I think they could potentially be a lead guy for a rental player. Now, if it's Eugenio Suarez, like a bat, you're probably going a little bit higher than that. You probably have to do Aiden Miller or Justin Crawford. Not both, but you probably have to do one of those guys for a bat like that, like Eugenio Suarez. But that's a whole other different question. We talked about that on a previous episode of the podcast, too. At David J. at PHOTODW. Oh, PhotoDW is probably what that's supposed to be. At PhotoDW asks, are we stuck with Taijuan Walker until Nola returns? Can we bring Abel back up after a couple of good starts? I'm not a believer in Taijuan Walker, same as you, but Taijuan Walker has not been a disaster this year. A 3.55 ERA, 49 strikeouts. He pitched really well in San Francisco his last time out. The Phillies lost that game 4-3, but Taijuan Walker pitched 4 innings. You know, he's being jockeyed back and forth between the starting rotation and the bullpen. That is hard to do, man. And the guy was signed here to be like a number 4 starter, and that clearly hasn't worked out. But he hasn't complained. He's done exactly what the Phillies have asked him to do, and he has been valuable this year. Now, do I want him in the starting rotation for the rest of the year? No. But I think for right now, yes, I would probably rather have Taijuan Walker in the rotation than Mick Abel until Aaron Nola returns. Now, if Abel does have another few good starts like we've seen in AAA, he could be called back up. But if you're going to move Mick Abel in a trade package, I think the Phillies would rather have him performing well in AAA than throwing 4 or 5 innings in the big leagues and maybe getting hit around a little bit. So I don't think Abel's going to be back up with this team before September. I think he's in AAA. I think he's in there through August probably, unless they want to bring him up and use him as a reliever. But I don't think he's going to reclaim a spot in the starting rotation, because Nola will be back. Again, unless there's barring something unforeseen at this point. So I think it's going to be Taijuan Walker, and it could be worse. I'm as surprised to say that as you are to hear it. But I'm okay with Taijuan Walker until Nola gets back and keeping Mick Abel down in AAA and hopefully building up his trade value a little bit, and or having him back as a reliever when he's called back up. When Nola returns, and if Nola doesn't return, then I think maybe you can have another conversation. Of course, again, that's maybe where Andrew Painter enters the picture. At Gob6969 tweets, what are the chances Gage Wood being called up this season? I just so happened to write about this for The Good Fight this week, and if you haven't caught that article, I suggest you go read it. But in short, I wonder if the Phillies made this selection knowing he would be on a fast track, knowing that he started his college career as a reliever, knowing he has 2 major league ready plus pitches in his fastball and curveball right now, and knowing that I think if they called him up and put him in the bullpen right now, I think he could get major league hitters out. Brandon Finnegan. The Royals did this with Brandon Finnegan when they went to the World Series back in 2014. They drafted him in midseason, and he was on the team in August in the bullpen. If his stuff is as good as all the metrics say that it is, he can probably get big league hitters out right now. They've never seen him before. If he's only going out there for one inning at a time, he's not trying to get through a lineup 2 or 3 times through the order, I could absolutely see a scenario where Gage Wood is called up this season. I think the odds are low. I'd say it's at like 5%, 5-10%. But it's possible. We've seen it happen in Major League Baseball before. It's absolutely possible. He is that good. I think he's going to be in the big leagues in 2026. That might also factor into some things the Phillies do with Ranger Suarez or Jesus Luzardo or whatever. But I think Gage Wood could very well be in the Phillies bullpen this August or September. Wouldn't surprise me at all. At Chief Joe 1900 asks, any chance we trade Bryson Stott? Yes, I do think there is a chance. Again, I have no inside information on this, but I do think there is a chance they could trade Bryson Stott. Again, he's giving you nothing offensively. He's got a good glove, steals bases, runs really well, intelligent player. I like Bryson Stott. I wish he was better, but he just makes too many outs. For a guy who has such great plate discipline and gets so many pitches to hit, it's been 4 years where 3 of the 4 years can't hit a big league fastball. So yes, if there's a team that wants Bryson Stott, I would absolutely trade him. Do I think the Phillies will? No. I think the odds are far better than not that Bryson Stott isn't going anywhere. But if you're asking me, is there a chance we trade Stott? Yeah. Everybody on this roster, except for Kyle Schwarber, Bryce Harper, Trey Turner, is available, and probably Real Muto, is available to some degree. To some degree, they are all available. So yes, I do think there is a chance the Phillies could trade Bryson Stott. I don't think it's likely. I think the chances are small, but yes, there is a chance. At Drew_Phils asks, will Schwarber surpass 58 home runs? No. He would have to go on a crazy kill rampage here to do that. He's on pace for 50, and I think he's already... Now, he hasn't had that, like... If he has like a 20 home run month, a 15 to 20 home run month, yes, he could do that. But he's been pretty consistent, and I don't think we're going to see a surge greater than what we've already seen from him. So I think he'll clear 50, as I said in my predictions. I do not think he'll surpass 58 home runs. That would require him to be even hotter than he has been already, and I find that hard to imagine. Last one, at Brian_Eberly asks, which option would help the team more in the long term? Adding a consistent outfield bat or replacing Stott with a better hitter? It's the outfield bat. Again, I think Sosa could be an internal replacement for Stott, and I think you're getting a decent upgrade offensively there for the most part. It's not a long-term solution. But in the long term, if it was Sosa for another few years or getting a consistent outfield bat, I think the consistent outfield bat is more important. They're rarer. They're harder to find, especially here in Philadelphia, where outfield remains a consistent problem. Nick Castellanos has one more year on his contract left after this one. Brandon Marsh, again, there's nothing in left field. There's really nothing in center field. Adding a consistent outfield bat would help this team more in the long term than replacing Stott with a better hitter. This team desperately needs outfielders. They have nothing in the system. There's nothing coming up in terms of the outfield. Would they move Aiden Miller there at some point? Yeah, maybe they might do that if Trey Turner sticks at shortstop. But I mean, if you move Bryson Stott, then maybe that opens up a spot for Turner to move to second and Miller to come up and play short, or Miller to go to second, something like that. Either way, they need outfield help. This team needs outfield help in the very worst way possible. All right, everybody, that's going to do it for this edition of Hittin' Season. Justin and Liz will be with you here at the end of the week for the Friday edition of the podcast. If you would like to take part in the show and let us know what you think about the Phillies, you can become a part of the show audibly. Record a voice memo on your phone. Not many of you guys have taken the opportunity to do this, and I don't really understand why. Be a part of the show. It's real simple. Get the voice memo on your phone, record a question, and email it to us. hittinseason@billypenn.com. I'd love to hear you. We'd love to play your stuff on the show. Become a part. It can be an interactive experience. You can also hit us up on our X's and our Blue Skies as well if you want to ask questions there. But that's a real missed opportunity I think you guys aren't taking advantage of. Voice memo yourself or record yourself on your computer, however you want to do it. Email us, hittinseason@billypenn.com, and we'll play your thoughts. We'll play your questions on the air. Please also check out our Hittin' Season YouTube page. If you want to watch the roundtable edition of the podcast, you can do that on YouTube. Go to the search bar, type in Hittin' Season, and subscribe. And every time there's a new episode, there it'll be. And we also have got some other shorter clips on there for you as well. Tell your friends and family members about the podcast. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever it is you get your little audio podcasts. Thanks, everyone, for listening. We'll talk to you next time right here on Hittin' Season.